Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss how to properly structure your financial house in retirement.
And on our Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss some key elements that could damage your financial house.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you the components of your financial house and how to build the proper blueprint for your retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better. You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and apply them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome in to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss how to properly structure your financial house in retirement.
That's right, Wendy. Living here in the Midwest, of course, we are susceptible to all kinds of weather. And we have to have a home that can withstand all of the different elements. And the same can be said for your financial portfolio. Over time, our financial assets must weather a certain multitude of conditions, including market swings, economic downturns, fluctuating interest rates, rising inflation, and changes in our own lives. So building a strong, flexible, renewable and sustainable financial portfolio really is a lot like building a weather-resistant home. The overall strength of a house is dependent on how well its components, the walls, the floors, the roof, the foundation, work together as a singular unit. And it's the same thing when it comes to investing your hard-earned dollars. You have to make sure that you have all the parts working cohesively together to accomplish your goals in retirement.
You know, I have a friend who's building a house right now, and it's amazing to me all of the details that go into something like that. This handle's wrong, the size of that window isn't right, and it just affects the rest of the process and how long it takes. So I can only imagine building your financial house has as many details, and things can go wrong with that as well if you don't do it right.
Absolutely, and that one little thing could mess everything up. So you want to make sure, it's kind of like the other thing you have to understand when it comes to building that house. Of course, we go hire an architect to put the blueprint together, and then we hire the builder to follow the architect's instructions. And really, it needs to be the same thing with your financial house as well. You can't go it alone. If you do go it alone, you might mess up and you might have a crooked house, not a very good house.
That's right.
So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to build your financial house similar to how you would build your own home.
Get those blueprints doing well, and along with the builder. Get
Absolutely.
everyone working together.
That's right, cohesively together.
All right. Well, when we return on the Coach's Corner, we are going to discuss some key elements that could damage your financial house. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Are you retired or wanting to know if you can retire in the next 5 to 10 years? If so, then this class is designed for you. Reserve your seat now for Empower University, an educational course for pre-retirees and retirees, hosted by Chad Slagle and his team of investment advisors. Call 844-608-1872.
Welcome back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss some key elements that could damage your financial house.
That's right, Wendy. When we think about your financial house, we think about the house that we live in. Think about what goes into building a house. The foundation is going to be first and foremost, but we also have the walls, the roof, even the fencing outside of your house, and so much more. But the key is that those components of your home are very similar to what it takes to create a solid financial house. In order to have a successful financial house, you have to have a solid foundation. That's where it starts. And think about if a big storm comes along and your house is not properly structured, you could have a lot of damage to your house, or really your house could blow away. Well, it is the same for your financial house. If a big storm comes along, and let's say we have a 20, 30, maybe even a 40% drop occurs in the market, how is that going to affect your financial house?
Well, and I think, Chad, you're absolutely right. You have to kind of have all of these different aspects when it comes to, going to build your house. And it's the same thing with your financial house. You have to understand all of these different aspects and have that plan set up properly so that financial house can really kind of withhold and withstand any kind of storm coming through.
All right, well then let's jump into some of those key elements that could damage your
Some
house.
of the key elements are the big things that could wipe out your retirement accounts. Number one is, of course, market swings. And this is one of the biggest elements, if not the biggest. And most of the people we sit down with getting ready to retire have all or most of their money sitting in the stock market. Now, they may be drawing some of this money to help provide an income retirement. And the problem with that is, Chad, if the market drops 20 to 30%, this could have a huge impact on their retirement. It could completely change their lifestyle in retirement, and they have to change the game plan that they had, those big dreams that they had. A lot of those may be washed away.
Yeah, and I think we see it a lot, and we see, somebody having $1 million in their portfolio, and today the markets are up, everything seems to be pretty good. However, if we kind of go through maybe another 2007, 2008 kind of cycle, and that $1 million loses 30, 40%, now all of a sudden they still need the same income that they are today, but they have a lot less. They have $300,000 to $400,000 less to work with, and I think that's really the most important thing to understand.
Well, we definitely don't want to take a big loss. Okay, so
No.
what about the second element?
The other one is kind of what Chad just talked about, an economic downturn in the market. And none of us want to go through another 2008, but you have to think about the economic environment that we're in right now. We often talk in our workshops, 20 years ago we had a national economy. Today we have a global economy. So even though our country may be running great and doing things fine, other countries like China, Europe, and Greece, these are the economics that we have now. And a lot of these countries and the problems that they're having, and maybe some of the problems that we're having with countries like China ourselves, that drags our economy down. And you have to understand, you have to protect yourself, because what's happening in those countries should not affect your retirement.
Well, and I think these are things that are completely out of our control, but they can really have a huge impact on our retirement. And, at almost 40 years of age and a lot of time, in my opinion, I have a lot of time to make up losses if we go through another downturn in the market. However, our parents at 60, 65 years of age, if they go through that, that's going to be a disaster for their retirement. So it's important to understand what you can control, and economic downturns are some things that we can't control.
Okay, and I think these next two elements kind of go together when it comes to damaging, things to look out for.
Yeah, a couple of the problems or the elements that you're going to have out there is, number one, fluctuating interest rates. They've been talking for years about how they're going to raise interest rates. If they do it too fast, what's going to happen with the market? And the other one would be rising inflation. And many of you know that interest rates have been rising as of late, so you have to be aware of this. If they raise interest rates too fast, what happens to your other investments? And we talk about inflation, that 2 to 3%. We cannot afford a portfolio that is not keeping up with inflation and does not protect from inflation. Also, as you mentioned, Chad, since we live in a pensionless society today, a lot of people need that money to live off of.
Yeah, and a lot of times we see, some of the strategies talking about kind of interest rate sensitive investments could be some of those bonds. And, since maybe the early 80s, when interest rates were really high, and over the last 35 plus years, as the interest rates were coming down, bonds performed very, very well. However, as Chad just mentioned, as interest rates continue to go up, depending on the, kind of the rapid rate if they do raise, these same bonds that did well in the past may not be the best place to protect your money in the future.
Well, and as you've said, we can't predict any of these things,
We cannot.
including the last one.
Yes. So the last one would be changes in our personal lives. Those are things we cannot change or may have a big burden on us. And this is also one of the biggest elements. You know, life changes, so does your health. Maybe you or a significant other become very ill or need to go to a nursing home, need some kind of long-term care. These are costly expenses that we don't want to think about, but these are things that could definitely affect your financial house. Or maybe it's helping take care of a loved one, whether a child or a parent that you're taking care of. So we talk about the personal lives and the family dynamics. These are things that we don't have control over. Of course, they're things that can creep up that we definitely have to make sure that we plan for that, should say plan for the worst and hope for the best, Chad.
Well, and we were talking earlier, Chad, we had a client who just lost a spouse, you know, over the last couple of weeks, and now all of a sudden, you know, that preparation and that planning, you know, pre-building that financial house into retirement really has paid off now because there was some spousal protection, some legacy protection, and now having that income for the surviving spouse to get through the rest of her life is very important.
And I think the whole key is there. We don't know what's going to happen. We do not know what elements are going to come up. So you want to be proactive and not be reacting to the market and all these other things that could come up. And again, that starts with having a blueprint to build that financial house.
Well, and luckily we have more information for you folks at home. To download our free white paper today about building your financial house, visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you the components of your financial house and how to build a blueprint in order to be successful in retirement.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team. That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed some key elements that could damage your financial house. Now we want to go over the components that make up your financial house and how to build a blueprint in order to be successful in retirement.
That's right, Wendy. In order to have a solid financial house, you have to create a blueprint that will withstand all of the elements that could potentially damage that house. Once you build that blueprint, then you can start building the components to your financial house and putting those together. And it all starts with a solid foundation. You do not want to build your financial house on a broken foundation. What I mean by that is you don't want to start adding other investments to the investments you already have. You want to strip that down and build that foundation from the ground up, because the last thing you want to do is start building your financial house that's going to get you successfully to and through retirement on a broken foundation, Chad.
Yeah, and I think when you think about it, if any of you have built a home or anything, I mean, that's the most important part. And once that foundation is really set, a lot of the rest of the house until they get into the insides really kind of goes fast. But that foundation is where they spend a lot of time, and it's also the most solid part of the house as well.
All right, so let's discuss some of the components of this financial house.
So some of the components of your financial house, of course, number one, as we just talked about, is your basement, is your foundation. And the foundation could also be called your secure bucket. And in that secure bucket of that foundation, you're going to have your checking account, your savings account, your CDs, your money that's safe and liquid. You can get to it whenever you want. Some other parts of the foundation could be the pensions, could be a Social Security, could be other safe vehicles such as fixed annuities and fixed index annuities. And these are all safe investments where you know if this market has a 10, 20% correction, that this part of your foundation or this part of your house, Chad, is secure and will not blow away when a big storm comes along.
Yeah, and I think what's the most important thing for you, for a retiree out there, to get them through retirement is to have the amount of income coming in each and every month that you're going to need to live on. And it needs to be coming in for the rest of your life, regardless of how long you live. So the first thing in this foundation, when you're building that foundation, is you've got to solve for that income you're going to need first.
And you have to make sure in that income, just like we talk about that secure bucket, Wendy, that income has to come in each and every month for the rest of your life and the rest of your spouse's life. If there's a 10, 20% correction, you cannot afford to lose that income. That has to be coming in all the time. So that's definitely a huge component, a huge part of your portfolio, because after that, everything, it's downhill from there as far as once you have that income set up and know that that money's going to be there to support your lifestyle in retirement.
All right, so a solid foundation, got that. What is next? What's a good component for
Number
your house?
two, of course, the second one would be the walls, of course. Once you have the foundation, then we start building from the foundation up. And of course, some of the walls could be some of the elements that are in the growth bucket. Could be corporate bonds or municipal bonds. Could be real estate or real estate investment trust. The walls of a financial portfolio represent the first level of risk in a portfolio. And they're a little more conservative investments, but they are subject to risk, including the loss of principal, where you could possibly lose your money. And these investments can make up a portion of your portfolio, but should not be all of your portfolio.
Yeah, and I think really to keep it simple, I mean, as you go up into your house and the walls of your house, I mean, they're maybe some safer, a little bit more conservative investments, but they're not near as safe as what you're putting in that foundation. And so, you know, everyone's different, the risk tolerance is different, and some different tools to use here, but it's more of a conservative approach in these walls.
All right, so the foundation, the walls, that brings us to the roof.
That's right. The next thing is the roof. Raise the roof.
Yes.
The roof would be, of course, stocks, mutual funds, index funds. As Chad mentioned, as you go from the foundation further up the house, the more risk you're going to take. So the roof of your financial house is represented by the highest level of risk your portfolio can tolerate. And these investments, of course, there is some risk, but there's also a lot better returns here, Chad, so a lot more growth opportunities. But you have to understand, similar to the way a thunderstorm or hailstorm could damage the roof of your home, if you do not plan it properly and there is a correction in the market, that roof could blow off. So you have to be careful with how much you put up there.
Well, and I think this is where we see, I mean, people come in, they're 60 years of age, or they see retirement here in the next 1 to 2 years, and we see the majority of their money sitting here in the roof. And it's, you know, taking on a lot more risk. And some of the questions we ask is, you know, how much risk are they comfortable with at this stage? And they're not as comfortable as they used to be when they were 40, 50 years of age. So, but we see that this is where a lot of people have the majority of their money. So understanding this is a big problem, and going into retirement, we've got to fix that.
All right, and what's the last component of our financial house?
So once you have the house done, depending on what neighborhood you live
Right.
in, you may want to have some fencing. So the fencing would be the other things that you have to make sure you plan for. And unfortunately, a lot of people do not plan for these. Could be legacy planning, making sure your assets are passed on to your children, or your grandchildren, your churches, whoever your beneficiaries may be, in the most tax efficient manner. The other big unknown that's out there today, Wendy, is that nursing home or long-term care protection. You want to make sure you protect your portfolio from an extended stay in a nursing home. So this is really the last component, and it really kind of wraps around everything else. But when it comes to building your financial house, it's a step-by-step process. The fencing is the last one, but sometimes it's a very important one that you want to make sure that you protect against as well, Chad.
Yeah, and it's not a great conversation to have, and it's not something that everybody loves to really add to that financial house, but this fencing and this concept of really adding some spousal protection, adding some legacy protection, and protecting your nest egg, your assets from long-term care and healthcare costs are so very important.
So very important. And Wendy, you have to educate yourself. You know, we talk about the components. It's not cookie cutter for everybody. It depends on your risk tolerance, your income needs, your lifestyle goals. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration when deciding what kind of house you want to have.
It's a great way to think about it. Well, to download our free white paper today about building your financial house, visit SlagleFinancial.com/empoweryou. Good information. When we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to show you how to build a blueprint for your financial house. Stay with us.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Are you retired or wanting to know if you can retire in the next 5 to 10 years? If so, then this class is designed for you. Reserve your seat now for Empower University, an educational course for pre-retirees and retirees, hosted by Chad Slagle and his team of investment advisors. Call 844-608-1872.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you how to build a blueprint for your financial house. And when we talk about your financial house, as you get closer to retirement or start thinking about retirement, I want you to think about the house that you raised your kids in. It's going to be completely different than the one you retire in. And what we find with a lot of people today as they get closer to retirement, Chad, once they get the kids out of the house, they're empty nesters, they don't need all this space anymore. So what happens is they downsize, right?
Yeah, and they downsize for what? To keep things simpler, to really kind of maybe protect other assets. Maybe that other house was a little bit too expensive or just too much to take care of. So I think the point is as you get closer to retirement, we're going to show you as you build your house, it's kind of raising those kids, but once you retire, you're trying to protect that house.
You only have to protect that house, but you also have to change the way that you think as you get closer to retirement. So if we take a look here, we talk about building your financial house. Unfortunately, what we find with a lot of retirees and those of you that want to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, your financial house is not set up properly right now, even though you're getting closer to retirement or now that you are retired. What we find is that 70, 80, maybe even 90% of the house is in the roof, it's in the walls, and it's not in the foundation. The problem is, Chad, if a big storm comes along and 70, 80, 90% of your house is in the roof and in the walls and a big storm comes along, it's going to blow your house away. And what we mean by that is we look at 70%, and the roof would be the stocks, the mutual funds, the index funds. Higher risk, more reward, but higher risk. And of course, the walls would be your bonds, bond funds. They're not safe. You can still lose money in those bonds and of course only have 10% in the foundation. So what we want to do now is show you how to switch from this mentality as you get closer to retirement and make your financial house a little more smarter, if you will, a little more secure. And the way that you do that is making sure, number one, you don't start the house up here, you start it down here, Chad, with the solid foundation.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as you see here, now all of a sudden, as we mentioned earlier, income's the number one, the most important thing to make sure that's coming in every month for the rest of your life. And we need to make sure that foundation is solving those income needs. And once we have that solved, now all of a sudden, we can still take on some risk, but now it depends on your risk tolerance. And now we can bring the necessary tools to the table for the necessary risk that you're comfortable with.
And it's no longer, Chad, about making those huge gains. It's no longer grow at all costs. It's about holding on to what you have, make that 6 to 8% and not get blown up when the market goes down. And by building your house here, where we have 50 to 60% of the money in the foundation, where you cannot lose it, and maybe have another 30, 40 up here, that's fine to do that as long as you have that bottom side protected. Do you have the proper foundation set up for your financial house? Do you need help building a blueprint for your retirement? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slaglefinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. And we'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today.
Coach Chad Slagle and join.
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice, appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning.
In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Are you retired or wanting to know if you can retire in the next 5 to 10 years? If so, then this class is designed for you. Reserve your seat now for Empower University, an educational course for pre-retirees and retirees, hosted by Chad Slagle and his team of investment advisors. Call 844-608-1872.
Welcome back one more time to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot today. What would you say are some of the key takeaways, Chad?
Number one, Wendy, understand the elements that could damage your financial house. Understand the financial storm, if you will, that could completely blow your house away. And number two, make sure you build a solid foundation first for your financial house. And number three, make sure you're working with an advisor that can help you build that blueprint for your financial house.
And don't forget, we've got this great information for you for free today about building your financial house. You can order one by visiting slaglefinancial.com/empoweryou. And also, Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.
Clothing for the Chad Slagle Show is provided by AL Custom Clothiers, a custom men's clothier that understands the value of offering our customers the best for less. ALCustomClothiers.com or 314-570-6000.